Hello everybody, I'm Ham and you watch. Welcome to Ham and Watch, and today another video of 5 reviews. Reviews of video games that I've played recently or finished recently or just simply enjoyed. Lots of indie games this time, but not just indie games. Lots of good games too, so I hope you will enjoy it. Now I'm putting in this list a big game, Baldur's Gate 3. I thought I would do an actual video on this game because I spent a lot of time on this game and I think it's such a huge game that it would have deserved a bit like Cyberpunk, but even more a video for itself. But there's just too much to say about this game. Baldur's Gate 3 is an excellent successor to the original series. If you've played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 back in the day, this is literally it. I couldn't imagine someone who played the 1 and 2 thinking that it is completely different. It is extremely faithful to the original. If you like Dungeons and Dragons, if you like any the tabletop RPG or any video game made on that series, this is extremely faithful to that. Visually, Baldur's Gate 3 is beautiful. There is so much to explore in there. It is beautiful looking, whether it's the levels, especially the levels, or the characters, the items, everything. I think the level design in Baldur's Gate 3 is very good. Audio-wise, all the music are very interesting and rich. It's the same vibe that you had in their previous games, such as Divinity 1 and 2. But at the end of the day, what attracts most people to this game is its gameplay and its content. Gameplay-wise, it is an immense and an immensely rich RPG, right? So if you like the idea of having lots of characters that you can evolve, that you can gear up and find lots of stats and skills and magic and weapons and items, if you like the idea of having tons of dialogues with their own story path, with finding all sorts of different branches, like you can do a playthrough that lasts 100 hours and you start all over again with some other characters and you take another path with some more evil choices or some more heroic path, you will have a very different experience. And this game is extremely rich in that. For all the gameplay, all the combats, if you don't like combats, I don't think you would enjoy this game because there's lots of combats. It's not just a story, there's a lot of combats. It is a Dungeon and Dragon game at the end of the day, right? And for me, that is probably where I had trouble loving the game more than I did. It's because at the end of the day, Baldur's Gate 3 heavily relies on two of these things. First, the combats. The combats are very good, very rich. And at the same time, they're quite demanding. They take a lot of time. There's so much in the game in terms of things to understand and discover, all the items, all the magic and everything, that it's very overwhelming and maybe a bit too confusing. The second thing and it's probably for me the weakest point in Baldur's Gate 3, for me, this is a me problem, it's all the story and dialogues and lore and all that. I didn't quite enjoy it. I thought the dialogues were actually not badly written, mind you. I think they're extremely well written, but it didn't touch me. You know, when you watch a movie or when you read a book, if the soul poured into it by the writers doesn't match with yours, you are going to be annoyed and frustrated and a bit angry at what you receive. This is exactly what happened in there. I didn't feel like a real, very fantasy, medieval fantasy dungeon exploring type of lore and type of vibe. It felt extremely weird. There's lots of stuff in there that annoy me. Lots of either stuff based on sex, stuff based on very gloomy, dark stuff, and very weird, very bizarre. Lots of stuff from the story and from dialogues. It didn't ring with me. I know lots of people consider this game as a masterpiece. For me, it did not resonate at all. I did not identify with the lore, with the races, the characters, the dialogues. I didn't like most of the characters in this game. I thought they were written in a very aggressive and very confrontational and very annoying way. Except maybe one character, the vampire, who I thought resonated with me because it reminded me of old movies and Rocky Horror Picture Show and that kind of humor. I thought it was good. But for me, there were many elements in this game that felt very weird. There's some steampunk elements in it. There's some it's a bit of a mishmash of lots of stuff, and it didn't catch me. The immersion was broken so many times. At the end of the day, I'm going to give Baldur's Gate 3 an 84%, which is a B+. It's a very good game, right? I had loads of fun. I wouldn't have played 100 of hours with a friend. By the way, I recommend playing this game with someone, unless you love the idea of doing all your party by yourself and all that. And if you love the lore and the dialogues and story, you would have lots of fun by yourself. Me, I was glad I had someone with me, because if not, I would have been bored. I thought the story and dialogue were just, it didn't catch me at all. So I was glad to do all the combats and the exploration with someone. I think it's a very good game. Lots of people are going to think it's a masterpiece. Lots of people already do. But I think there's a very few minority like me who thought it didn't talk to them. And so if it was just for that, it would be a much lower rating, like maybe around 60%. So I just cut the thing in half, and for me it's an 84. It's a very good game. Very good game. There's so much in there, and there's so much effort put into the crafting of this game that you cannot reasonably give a bad rating to it. Next in the list we have Zero Sievert. So Zero Sievert is an indie game that I was very impatient to try and play. I've seen people like Pestily play it. I'm a huge fan of Escape from Tarkov, and this is basically a tribute to games like Escape from Tarkov, but in a very retro looking way, in a very old school style. And so basically this is your typical extract looter that you have plethora recently. You are this little guy in this post-apocalyptic world. You go into maps, you loot people, you kill people, you grab stuff, you do some missions, and then you try to extract back to the hub and upgrade your base and all that. It's that kind of gameplay. Visually, Zero Sievert is very retro looking, right? If you look at this and you think this is ugly and you dislike that, you immediately know this is not for you. I come from retro games back in the 80s and 90s. For me, this looks very nice. I like that. I like the idea of a top-down view. I like the idea of this inventory, these old items, all in pixelized and such. I think this is very cool looking. Audio-wise, the game is just fine. There's no music in there. It's not very interesting. There's no voiceover or anything. It is extremely limited. That's probably one of the things that disappointed me in this game, is that I expected more in terms of content and depth and all that. And basically, the game is pretty basic despite being in development for quite some years. The gameplay is very good. You've got lots of stuff to do. The shooting is pretty rich. All the weapons, the bullets and all that, it's quite demanding. It's if you are not used to that and you expect some, because looking at this and you expect some casual gameplay, this is not it. It is quite demanding. There's lots of stuff to do in the game. There's lots of maps and lots of items and such, but overall I did not finish the game because it ended up being a bit boring, a bit repetitive. I was disappointed. I expected more, and I thought the game was a bit bare bone in the end. It doesn't make the game bad, right? So overall, I give it a B-, 71%. It's a nice game. It's a nice indie game. I understand that some people would spend more on it because they love that. For me, I expected more depth. I love Tarkov. It gives me some vibes of Tarkov, but at the end of the day, I'd rather play Tarkov. Next, we have Stray. So Stray is a weird game. Stray is a game where you play a cat in a post-apocalyptic world. It is very cinematographic. It is very pretty. As you can see, the graphics are probably the strongest point of Stray. And so it's a game of exploration, of adventure, where you play this cat. You don't have lots of interaction, you don't have lots of action. You can just walk, wander, jump, and sometimes interact with a few items here and there. Stray has some good music elements to it. It's very ambient. It's all about the immersion, about being in this very oppressive world. There's a lot of elements in this game that are made around the fact that you play a cat and all the jokes, the typical memes that you can find on internet, all that. I'm not at all into that. I love cats as animals. I don't care about pets. So in the end, it gives you a very basic gameplay, right? You just jump, and you don't jump with an actual button to jump and aim. You get near an edge, and if there's an A that says you can jump, you press A and it jumps automatically there. So it's a very casual game. The whole gameplay experience is very casual. It is an adventure, an exploration-based adventure. It is quite short. You can finish that game Stray in a few sittings. But at the end of the day, the reason why you would play Stray is for this: to live a weird adventure in this weird futuristic world where there's only a cat left alone, and you try to understand what is going on. It's a lot about dystopian ideas about what humanity could do to the world. So overall, I'm going to give Stray a B+, 82%. It's a good game. It's a good game. I don't think I could give lower than that, and at the same time, I don't think I could give higher. It's a beautiful looking game. It's a very weird, odd and dark adventure that you should play in a very relaxed and casual way. It's like reading a good book. It's like watching a good movie set in this world. And so it's more of an experience than an actual game with lots of gameplay and all that. It is a very good experience game. In this list, we have Animal Well. Animal Well is an oddity. It's a very weird game. As soon as you see this, you will know if you are attracted to it or not. Video-wise, graphics-wise, I think Animal Well is extremely pretty, right? But it's in an illustrated way, obviously. It is all pixelized. It is not completely insane graphics or anything. It is more in a very retro and old-school type of approach. But for me, who loves Metroidvania and such in 2D games, I think it was extremely colorful and beautifully illustrated. It has this dark and very eerie, colorful but dark atmosphere vibe. I really like it. There is not really any sort of music or dialogues or big story going on here, but there is a lot going on. Because at the end of the day, Animal Well is a Metroidvania looking game. Looking, because it is not a Metroidvania. It is a platformer puzzle. If you don't like the idea of a 2D platformer in this very old school looking way, you're not going to like the game. If you don't like puzzles and lots of very cryptic messages and enigmas and riddles and physics-based puzzles, very obscure and intriguing and convoluted puzzles, such in games like Fez or Tunic, you will not like this game. Overall, Animal Well is purely based on that. You are lost into this world. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you are, what you do. You find eventually some items, some very quirky items, and you are using platform-based mechanisms, jumping and activating switches and all that, in order to explore more and always a bit more and understand, how do I go there? Oh, it links to this. How do I do that? It's all about understanding the game more than understanding a story. It's all about solving puzzles with your little jelly bean guy and trying to understand, how can I get more of this? It's always a question of unlocking more puzzles, and there is a puzzle within the puzzle, and there's these 4 puzzles all together. When you put it in the big picture, it gives a key to a gigantic puzzle. It's all about understanding more cryptic stuff to unlock more stuff. So if you don't like puzzles, don't play Animal Well, but if you love that, the idea of noting down some stuff and solving puzzles in a very cryptic way in this very eerie and fantasy world, Animal Well is a blast. Overall, I give Animal Well an 91%. It's an A, an excellent game. If you love puzzles, if you love exploration and solving very cryptic stuff, excellent. And finally, in this series of reviews, Another Crab's Treasure. Another Crab's Treasure is an indie game that came out recently from a studio that is really rising to the top at the moment. They did recently Peak, a game that worked really well. And this is their major game. Like, it's a huge adventure RPG exploration game that lots of people heard about, at least. And if you're looking for a game that is very similar to Dark Souls and the like, with a very different theme and vibe, you should definitely check this out. Video-wise, Another Crab's Treasure is a game that looks sometimes really neat, still in the indie scope of a game, and sometimes quite average, almost mediocre. Like, all the illustrations, the map and all that look really nice. I wish probably the game had been a bit prettier, more like that overall. And sometimes, you know, it's very reminiscent of early 3D games like a Nintendo 64 and such. So it varies. It also has the looks of you know, if you know all these quirky things like SpongeBob SquarePants and so on. It looks a bit silly, colorful, silly, quirky, weird, a bit. Overall, it's just a mixed bag of stuff. In terms of audio, Another Crab's Treasure has a bit of everything also. Once again, it's a mixed bag. You've got some great tracks, really nice tunes, very oniric, very pretty. Sometimes some weird junky stuff, a mix of, I don't know, metal, hip-hop, but in a very basic way. So there's some good and some bad in there. It's fine. The strong point of Another Crab's Treasure is actually its gameplay. This is a tribute to Dark Souls and some other games, platforming games, action games. There's a bit of everything in there, Mario, Zelda, but mostly it is expanding on the Dark Souls recipe. Big RPG, very demanding combats. You can die to a basic enemy even towards the end of the game. So if you are frustrated in games like Dark Souls, be careful here. And on the contrary, if you are a big fan of Dark Souls games, of games that ask you to be extremely precise in your fights against bosses and enemies, if you look for a tribute to the 3D era of Nintendo 64 mixed with a Dark Souls gameplay, Another Crab's Treasure is very rewarding. It is quite rich. I think it's even expanding on the Dark Souls recipe. Content-wise, this game is once again a mixed bag of stuff. Lots of dialogues, a big story. Sometimes it's neat. It's delivering a political message, an ethical message. Lots of the time it's actually doing silly jokes, bad humor, cringy humor that doesn't resonate with me. I think it's a generation thing. It really reminds me of SpongeBob and all that stuff. So if you're into that, you would have a blast. For me, it was just mesh. I was skipping most of it without caring much about it. But at least I can only applaud the effort that has been put into this game. There's a lot of effort. So yeah, overall, Another Crab's Treasure is a mixed bag. It will resonate with lots of gamers out there, I think, and it will also annoy lots of other gamers. Overall, it is a mix of dark and funny and silly and quirky and weird and cringy and very hardcore gameplay mixed with just average platform. But I think it is a tremendous effort to do something unique and different. So if you look for something different and you want to try a Dark Souls-like game, I can only recommend Another Crab's Treasure. And that's why for me it's an RPG with tons of stuff that I had lots of fun playing, and that's why I also give it an 83%. It's a B+. Another Crab's Treasure is a good game. It's definitely a good game that will satisfy lots of people. There is a lot to do in there, and you can spend dozens of hours having fun and being satisfied in terms of gameplay. So 83% B+. And that's it. That was my list of games for today. Tell me if you like this new format. Tell me if you like some of those games, if you dislike some of those games. And I hope you appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.